College football's exciting run continues in week 6, and we see the Iowa Hawkeyes take on the Ohio State Buckeyes. These are two teams that are in different situations, but are going to be very exciting to watch in this game. I think everybody kind of anticipates that Ohio State's going to run away with this one, but Iowa is definitely a team that can make things interesting. We've seen it in the past. So it's a reason why you can't count the Hawkeyes out. Now, when you look at these two teams, you obviously first you notice the drastic different styles in play. Ohio State has an explosive offense that is scoring points at a pretty good clip, but also you have to understand that they're mostly doing things pretty vanilla. They're not showing a ton of things, especially with a big matchup against Oregon coming up later in this season next week, I believe. And you're looking at a team that is ready to make a statement in the Big Ten, and you can do that against Iowa. We will see how that all plays out, but Ohio State is definitely a team that is going to make things very interesting and going to make things very difficult for Iowa. Now, Iowa has been scoring a little bit better than we anticipated. Obviously, that was the running joke last year, but this is a team that is looking to continue playing the way that it knows how to play well, and that is running the football and playing really good defense. And that's going to be a key for them against Ohio State. If they're able to slow down this Buckeyes offense, you feel pretty good about their chances to hang around, maybe even pull off the upset. It's not very likely, but it's not out of the question. The big questions, though, for these teams first, we'll start with Iowa. Do they have it in them to pull off an upset? Can they find the passing attack enough to be able to find balance in this offense? Getting Caleb Johnson involved obviously is the priority, and you're going to run the football quite a bit despite facing an Ohio State defense that has plenty of talent and can slow down this rushing attack. But Caleb Johnson is an absolute stud. You also have to give credit to Iowa's offensive line. That is a really good group, and Ohio State's going to have their hands full with that offensive line. That's a group that is very physical. They can dominate at the line of scrimmage, and they're going to open things up for Caleb Johnson. They'll provide plenty of running opportunities, plenty of running lanes, and Caleb Johnson is so good that I think that the matchup to watch has to be Ohio State's defensive line against Iowa's offensive line. That's going to be such a fun matchup to watch, and the battle in the trenches is always going to be an underrated one, but one that is vital to both sides' success. The question for Ohio State is how do you get off to a fast start? Iowa is not a team that's designed, no matter what year you're in, to keep up with this team. There's no way that if Ohio State gets off to a fast start, Iowa has it in them to keep scoring at the rate that Ohio State's going to score. So, how do you get off to a fast start? How do you essentially establish your dominance and show that you are for sure the better team? That is going to be, I want to say it's a difficult task, but Iowa's such a stingy team that you have to execute and you have to be disciplined with what you are doing because if you are not careful, Iowa is a team that can hang around, and we've seen that in years past. Ohio State has seen that firsthand. What happens when you give Iowa some momentum and you've seen what their defense is capable of doing, so you really can't mess around. The impact players for Iowa, they're going to be pretty obvious. I think the biggest X factor is going to be Cade McNamara, or really whoever's going to be the quarterback for Iowa in this game. I think that Cade McNamara has done a pretty good job. He's looked fairly confident at times, and this passing attack has showcased some really exciting players with some potential. But it's going to be the rushing attack. Caleb McNamara is going to be the X factor, but the Caleb Johnson show is going to continue. This is a guy who's an absolute star for the Hawkeyes. We didn't really know who was going to be that go-to guy. He has quickly emerged as the star of this offense. The passing attack is going to have to complement them as much as possible. Jacob Gill having a good season so far. Reese Vanderzee has been a big body receiver that people have talked about a little bit. We just obviously haven't seen that consistency because we don't know if Iowa's going to be able to pass the ball efficiently. Going to the defensive side of the ball, honestly, take your pick of the number of players that you can choose here to focus on. Jay Higgins and Jackson are honestly one of the best tandems in college football at linebacker. These are two guys that are natural playmakers. They know how to get to the football, they know how to get guys in position. That's going to be a really exciting group to watch. And we talked about the offensive line, the defensive line has a number of players that could step up as well. And I'm really excited to see how they perform in this game too. Sebastian Castro is another guy to keep an eye on, and you're looking at an Iowa team that again knows its identity. They know exactly what they want to do, and that is stop the run or establish the run offensively, continue to be physical, and find a way to slow this pace down. This is a team that does not want to get into a track meet, and it's going to be very evident with how they play. Now, the impact players for Ohio State go into what they really want to do offensively and defensively. Now, you could pick a ton of impact players for both sides of the football. Will Howard is going to have a good game against this Iowa defense. Again, we talked about the need for the defense to do its part against the run, but offensively, Will Howard is going to be the impact player that is going to dictate how far this team goes in this season. And he has so far shown some pretty exciting things. Obviously, some developing still needs to be done, but he is someone to keep an eye on there. The tandem of Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson absolutely phenomenal and explosive backfield for Ohio State. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Then you go to the passing attack. Emeka Egbuka having a good year, averaging 17.2 yards per catch. Not to be outdone by freshman Jeremiah Smith, a freak athlete who is already making a ton of exciting plays. I did a film breakdown on my other channel. If you have not checked that out yet, we saw Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith from Alabama and Ohio State, respectively, go off in week 5. And those are two guys to keep an eye on going forward. Jeremiah Smith is so good at what he does, and he gives Ohio State plenty of options and lots of exciting potential to be a really exciting group in 2024. The defensive side of the ball, again, you have so much talent here. The defensive line, though, like I mentioned before, they are going to have a big game. So guys like Ty Hamilton are going to have to step up. JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, those are guys that came into the season with a ton of excitement, a ton of hype. Tyleik Williams, those are guys that are going to have to step up for them big time. This defensive line is going to have to play a huge role for them in this week because Caleb Johnson is no joke. Even against Ohio State, Caleb Johnson can make life very difficult for any team that he's facing, but Ohio State is definitely not an exemption from that list. So this defensive line has some work to do, but if they are playing at their peak, which they're capable of doing, that is going to be a really good performance, and that's going to switch momentum, or I should say, keep momentum in Ohio State's favor. I think that Ohio State wins this game, but I'm not counting out Iowa. I don't think that you can just ignore the fact that they are capable of pulling off the upset. It's just not super likely. When you go and look at these two teams, really exciting potential for both of these teams. I think Iowa is looking to get to the Big Ten championship game still, even with a loss here. That still is in the cards. We will see what happens there. Ohio State obviously looking to tune up for a big matchup against the Oregon Ducks. I think Ohio State is going to be focused. I think they are ready to play. And even though this is their first true, real tough test, it's going to go in their favor unless Iowa is able to do something to just throw a wrench in those plans.